And we are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Love First Christians Bible Study. I'm Hody Johns. I am joined by Aaron Goss. Aaron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Good. Good. Well, let's go ahead and start with some Bible stuff because that's what's the most fun. Oh, ordinarily I start it like this, but apparently I already had the Bible stuff up. So, you know what? Maybe it's okay that we're going to jump straight into this here. I have two passages in a row, and I just want to read them. We're going to get a lot of this in Galatians. So for those who may have missed the first part of Galatians, they have a problem with kind of seeping back into the Old Testament. Paul's kind of trying to get them away from that. And I like the way he talks to him here. So Paul says, before the way of faith in Christ, before the way of faith in Christ was available to us, we were placed under just so you know, before the way of faith, in case you're like, that's a weird way to phrase it. The way is what actually the original name of Christianity was. So I'm even stuttering to read it as well. But anyway, before the way of faith in Christ was available to us, we were placed under guard by the law. We were kept in protective custody, so to speak, until the way of faith was revealed. Let me put it another way. The law was our guardian until Christ came. It protected us until we could be made right with God through faith. And now that the way of faith has come, we no longer need the law as our guardian. For you are all children of God through faith in Christ Jesus, and all who have been united with Christ in baptism have put on Christ, like putting on new clothes. There is no longer Jew or Gentile, slave or free, male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. And now that you belong to Christ, you are the true children of Abraham. You are his heirs, and God's promise to Abraham belongs to you. And the next one that I had is just from the...
Well, before we move
chapter.
on to just that,
Sure.
On that specific thing,
yeah.
What do you think it means that he says that you're no longer slave? Because, like, as far as I understand, there was no spiritual aspect of slavery. And he's certainly not saying that he's freeing the slaves in the sense that, like, they're free of their earthly confinement. So what exactly does he mean there?
Paul in previous letters has referred to our he is referred to even belonging to Christ occasionally as slavery, to be like, you can't have a second master,
right?
Because he is your master here. So as far as slavery here, let's see, your protective custody. Let me get the exact part here. Putting on new clothes. Oh, neither slave nor free. That part there.
Yeah.
Neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free.
Yes, the neither slave nor free just seems really weird in this, like, spiritual dimension that he's talking about, because that didn't have any aspect on your salvation before or after.
Yeah. This is class. He's talking about class. There's no, like, free people or slave people.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, and I think it makes sense within the context, because there's no Jew or Gentile.
Right. Well, that mattered, but, like, that matters now, and that's an ongoing discussion. So I get why that's been being involved. But
yeah, I would say all this matters. No Jew or Gentile is nationalism, right? Like, which one's got the right ones? Male or female? Obviously, we still have gender problems. This person belongs on top. That person belongs on top. This is the leader. This is the submissive kind of. We still have that crap. And then slave or free, we still have people that just say, you are the working class and you guys slave away, and these people are the rich people that can kind of do what they want. And that is something that in Christ you are not supposed to have. At least that's my reading of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I get why you're saying it's awkward, because you think there's no slavery anymore, right? Like, we're all free.
Right.
But yeah, no, he's referring to classes of people there. At least that's my reading on it.
Yeah, I guess I could kind of interpret it as, like, just an all-inclusive sort of thing, but it just feels awkward because Jew and Gentile are definitely spiritual things, but the other two examples, male and female, and slave and free, like, they're not spiritual dimensions; they're just physical stuff, So but I understand what you mean, where he's just like, basically, we're all one in Christ, and y'all need to stop being ridiculous. And Galatians is like seemingly all about circumcision. Like
Yeah, they
90%
really
of
want
the
that to
book.
be part of it. So
Yeah.
when you say the spiritual element to Jew and Gentile, what do you mean? Because I think I'm not sure.
Well, Jews following the law, and Christians, like Gentiles coming into Christianity, are no longer following the law, and the fact that there's that conflict between them. That's kind of what I'm referring to.
Oh, okay. That there's like spiritual disagreement.
Yeah,
I'm looking at this as more like a
theological disagreement, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. I don't even take this as like a theological. I don't think in this context it's talking about theological in either of them, because I
Mm.
think this is kind of talking about kind of ironing out all equality systems, right? That we treat people the same whether they're Jew or Greek. And I guess especially in the context, since these people are having problems with maybe accepting some of the new Gentiles, that it makes sense here. I'll go back on this passage just so we can read it a little better in context here. So yeah, his issue. So he's talking about the law and following the law. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Because the
Yeah.
Jew and Gentile seems to make sense because the Jews want to follow the law.
For you are all children of God through faith in Christ Jesus, and all of you
Yeah,
have been united in Christ in baptism,
yeah,
like putting on new clothes. And then it talks about Jew or Gentile, which makes sense with the flow of the conversation. But then
yeah.
he starts talking about slave or free, male or female, and that just part doesn't make sense, like spiritually, to the rest of the discussion. And then he goes back to, for all of you are one in Christ Jesus. You know, I mean, it doesn't. It's in the ultimate scheme of things. It's not any big deal. It's just it read a little weird to me.
I think he's bringing up just two new common issues here. That there's still kind of the old. So these are two old systems, right? There are slave people and free people. When we look at the Old Testament, there are rules for slaves and rules for slave owners, and they are different, right? And then we have rules for males and rules for females. And then we hit the gospel, and that's no longer relevant, right? Like we do away with that. And hey, we've got Narcissistic here. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing? Nurse? Do I just call you Nurse? Hi, Nurse.
That works.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. I'm sorry. I hope you haven't been listening long. I'm trying to do tech and everything at the same time.
No, I literally just got sat down. I'm bending very behind. Sorry.
That's okay. Fantastic. Happy to have you. Kind of relatively new joiner. I guess you've been here for a month or two, right? In like kind of the Love for Christians Discord group.
Yeah, I kind of been lurking, but haven't, been ready to join. I've had a little bit of religious trauma.
That is extremely common in this group, so I appreciate you even so much as giving it a shot again. Most people appropriately, I think, write it off forever, and I understand why. Do you want to introduce yourself? Is there anything you'd like? I know I met you through streaming.
Yes.
I watched your. Was it? Was it Core Keeper? Was it Stardew Valley? Which one were you playing?
I think Stardew Valley. I'm relatively new to Core Keeper, so.
Okay.
I've moved on from Core Keeper, so.
Okay. It was probably Stardew Valley then. Aaron is a gamer. I am a gamer. You're in good hands.
Awesome.
Here. But yeah. Bray, a comment over here, says, "Hey, what up, fam? Also, hello, new friend." Legacy Zach, also of the Love for His Christian, says, "God bless your journey." He also wanted to add, slavery was interesting back in the ancients. It was pretty much indentured servitude. So class is a good interpretation. Legacy Zach also says, circumcision of the heart is greater than traditional circumcision. Yeah, and then adds a little face there, because please don't actually circumcise your heart. This is metaphor is important in the Bible. Nurse, did you have any insight on what Aaron and I were talking about here? There's neither Jew nor Gentile, slave nor free, male or female, for you all one in Christ Jesus.
I have nothing. I'm literally just coming in.
Okay, no, that's okay. Pipe up.
Is,
obviously, have any thoughts? Yeah.
So Hody, this is a frequent occurrence. Hody will go on for several minutes with very good points, and then he'll turn to me and he'll say, "Do you have anything to add, Aaron?" And I'll say, "Nope." I'm a very bad conversationalist sometimes.
Sometimes the Bible actually does speak for itself, and sometimes somebody actually does say all the things that you want that need to be said. So I appreciate that. All right, moving on to this part in 4 here that I really liked. This middle part here. And it is, let's see here. God sent him to buy freedom for us who were slaves to the law so that he could adopt us to his very own as his very own children. And because we are his children, God has sent the spirit of his son into our hearts, prompting us to call out Abba, Father. Now you are no longer a slave, but God's own child. And since you are his child, God has made you an heir. I guess, Aaron, that's probably his best attempt to actually now talk about slave and free. He actually is moving from one subject to the other. Something I did want to point out, this Abba Father phrase right here, we actually see it a couple of times, and it's secretly cool because Abba is the Aramaic way of saying father and Greek is the way of saying father. So while he is talking about uniting Jews and Gentiles, and
he's actually literally doing it with language.
Right. Yeah. He's dialectically doing that as well. That's the same father, no matter what language that we decide to use. It's simple, but I think it's beautiful. This passage is obviously rather famous. 3 and 4 here. These third and fourth chapters are obviously pretty famous, and I think for a good reason. Aaron, anything that you wanted to add on this?
I mean, other than the thing that I interjected in the middle of you trying to talk.
That works. I'm glad you saw where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Nurse, anything that you wanted to put on here? No? Okay. All right, let's see here. Bray says, I got to use this passage to help someone at work process their religious trauma. Hands down, one of the best. Yeah, I think one of the things that I find with the New Testament right now is it so strongly correlates to the position that we're currently in. We're taught we as Christians are caught in between kind of rule following black and white Christians and spiritual, Jesus Christians, so to speak. And so I just find a lot of this really relates, especially to those who are experiencing religious trauma, to realize, especially when they're used to having the Bible bash them over the head constantly, that the Bible is actually on their side, that there's actually good news in here for them. And I think that it feels impossible when you've experienced like a couple badly translated, badly contextualized verses nailing you over the head to just be like, oh, the Bible actually is a lot cooler than I thought. Aaron, you had...
Well, before we move on, actually, I want to back up on the section that you were talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
We're specifically talking about the law being... God sent him to buy freedom from us who are slaves to the law, is verse 5. I guess my question with that is, how much of this do you think is Paul versus how much of this is directly divinely inspired and not part of Paul's ego, as it pertains to Jews who continue to want to follow the law as opposed to Christ? And I know that we both think of universalism, and we both think that we're going to come to Christ in the end anyway, but regardless of the situation. But I guess, how much do you think of God specifically having antagonism towards those who don't follow his son, as opposed to just being Paul himself talking? I mean, that language, slaves to the law, seems pretty antagonistic.
Oh, you mean like towards the Jews?
Towards the Jews specifically, yeah. Like specifically the Jews that didn't want to come to Christ. And I mean, even today, the ones that still don't come to Christ.
Yeah, well, and honestly, in the context here, to people who believe Christ and yet still out of almost like an addiction, right?
Right.
Like to just be like, this is the only way I know.
We need to follow these rituals, yeah.
I haven't really thought of this verse as antagonistic before, but I certainly hear it now that I'm reading it and thinking about the Jews at that time period. I do think at some point, if you're listening, Jeremiah, I hope you'll understand that I mean this pleasantly, but Jeremy is kind of the modern day Paul in this sense, to be like, sometimes you need to smack somebody in the face to wake them up. And to just be like, this, do you understand how this is enslaving you, how this is holding you back, how this is being used to control you, right? Like how all these things are control mechanisms that aren't inspired of God. And so it's time to stop with that. And I think by calling him a slave, maybe not the kindest way to say it, but I don't know. I mean, I guess if you were to rewrite this, Aaron, what would you say to make this more kind to the Jews? You know?
That's kind of what I was trying to get at, is how much of this is Paul and how much of this is God. And I mean, we've talked before about how Paul interjects his ego into a lot of his writing. And so I guess my question is, if this is godly inspired,
mm-hmm.
that would seem like it's sort of an indictment against Judaism, both the Jews at the time and also Judaism today as a religion. And I'm curious to see how much you think that's the case.
I mean, I like this passage by Paul. That's why I'm quoting it here. I think that a lot of this is targeted at Jewish leadership,
mm-hmm.
because Jews in general, first of all, really like Jesus. I mean, a huge chunk of them were the first believers, right? Like in the first churches here. So I have a problem. Obviously, the Jews killed Jesus narrative. If we want to get me started on that, I can talk about that.
Right.
But there is an element of just being like, man, break your chains for the last time. Like, you got to get off of it. And I think that Paul here I think he's technically correct. And I guess it just doesn't hit me as all that egotistical, because I think he has explained prior to this the purpose of the law. Even says, like, I don't want to destroy it. The purpose was to complete it. I'm not trying to throw it out. Why don't you take this next step? Hey, it's the good news time. Like,
I'm kind of stapling on a different issue to a topic that's not really directly about the ending of Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm not really. This isn't necessarily the appropriate time to bring that up. Because this is the Bible passage that we're reading right now isn't directly about it. But I guess my real question is, I guess, from a non-bigoted standpoint, I'm not talking about, having bigotry or anything like that, but how antagonistic is Christianity generally, like scripturally, towards Judaism?
Oh, okay. So, like, okay, do we got to be jerks to Jews because they hold on to the law? And we're like,
well, I mean, I wouldn't even say jerks, but I mean, like, how? I mean, I'm not saying necessarily any more than you would to, Islam or atheists or Sikhs or anything like that. Like, do Judaism specifically have a kindred spirit sort of thing with Christians, or do Christians see themselves as the fulfillment of the law, as you would say in the book?
Yeah.
I guess that's my overall question. I know that's a big topic.
I mean, I'm not qualified to speak for all Jews or all Christians.
Sure.
I think the thing is when I study these faiths, there's a reason the golden rule appears in all of them. And I think that there's more spiritual room in Judaism than we think. We're going over Isaiah in the reading this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is another guy who is kind of I hope I'll get to the verse this week, but dunks on the law, right? Like, this is a Jew who is like, you're following these scripts as opposed to the reason the scripts were written. And this is not uncommon for Jews. There's almost a joke about rabbis, right? That you ask them a question and they go, what do you think that means, right? This is a common Jewish narrative, right?
Very Socratic.
Right. And this is absolutely true I've told you, Aaron, when any old religion that has survived to today is remarkably flexible. Has to be, right? And so Judaism, I mean, they're no longer doing sacrifices, right? Like, there's a lot of changes that they have made to this law. and I think while some of them still are probably a little rule followery for me, that they do understand that there's like a spiritual element to it, right? The Talmud says that the entire purpose of the Torah is for peace, right? And now we can read, you and I read a lot of Torah that doesn't look like it's about peace, right? But that's the qualifier, that it's like, if you are reading something that says, oh, this is why we do war, you misinterpreted the passage. And indeed, as we learn later in the Old Testament, as Isaiah is telling us, these wars were a problem. Right? Like now these wars are coming back to bite you. All these wars we supposedly got ordained that we were celebrating. And Isaiah's like, yeah, get ready to bite it because of all this warring. And so I think that I get a lot of overlap with the Jews here. If I wanted to do anything, I don't think this is anti-Jewish so much as it is like anything that tries to follow a rigid legal system as a substitute for morality. And I think that's even more than Judaism, what Paul's kind of getting at here. We need to be guided by the Spirit as opposed to like setting up other stuff. And to me, I think that there are Jews that are like that, right? Like the leadership certainly wasn't open to it because rules keep people in line and they get you money, right? Like follow X, Y, and Z, you know? So yeah. Nurse, do you have any thoughts about this? This is kind of a general subject, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. You're
kind of putting me on the spot.
I want to make sure everybody gets a turn, man. I don't like it when I don't get a turn.
Well, I mean, I don't know where I fit into religion anymore. I've kind of been doing the solo thing for such a long time that I feel very far removed from any of it. Like I don't even know the last time I cracked open my Bible per se. I would say my spiritual walk is more of a prayer, but I try to, the golden rule thing resonates with me, you know, treat people how you want to be treated and kind of move how you feel called, I guess. And I don't know, lately I haven't felt very called. So I don't know.
You sound exactly where I was like 4 years ago. Because I had like a 15-year gap in my Christian journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's a tough time spiritually for me. And it wasn't, but this year in particular has been things I've seen have been, it's been
trying.
Rough.
Yeah.
I live in Florida. That's, you know,
I'll
leave it at that.
Yeah. I live in Texas, so I can
Okay, then you get it.
You guys have seen things.
We've seen things. And, you know, I'm not straight. So, you know.
Yeah.
That's the discrimination you have faced from our church sucks, and we're doing our best to fix it. But until then, I don't think you're unwise to stay away, right? Like Jesus started his own thing when the Jews weren't doing the right thing, right? Like sometimes you just got to scrap, you know? And so.
And one more quick rabbit hole, Hody, and then I promise I'll stop derailing us. But
I've got one first, just because it's on par with what you said, that you relate to the golden rule. And I just want to say this: if you know the golden rule, you actually know the Bible entirely. Matthew 7:12 says, "So in everything, do unto others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets."
There's actually a Paul quote in this reading this week that's basically the same thing, that says essentially like you can sum up the law as do unto others as you would have them do to you.
Yeah, right.
That's
brilliant. Right, it's repeated again. And we got Zach here. Zach, what's going on, my man?
How's it going?
Howdy, man. I figured I'd join.
I appreciate it, man. I really do. You've been a busy guy.
I try to be. So I think that's all we all are. We all try to be. You got to try.
Yeah.
If we're not busy, it's idle hands, right?
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Zach, I know you've been active in our group for the last few weeks here. Did you want to, Bray gave a what up to Nurse. So, hey, what up, other new friend to Zach. Bray is, you probably recognize the name from talking to him in the Love First Christians, but he's generally prefers to do the Facebook comments as opposed to joining us. let's see here. Bray says, ultimately, Scripture says that we can be a slave of three things, but a slave nonetheless. We can be slaves of carnality, slaves of the law, or slaves of love. That's why God is referred to as master so often in the New Testament. But it's not considered bad to be a slave of love. Yeah, it's I hear this sometimes within my anarchist circles that it's like we say no king but Christ, and when people are like, but so then you're a statist or whatever, and it's like I guess if you want to get me on that technicality, yes. But if Jesus is the president, I'll take it.
That's
Bray
where
says,
I actually met you, is the anarchist circles.
oh, is that where we actually met?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I just joined in on your streaming because we were in the anarchist circles.
Right.
Oh, okay. The law is one aspect of Jewish culture, and it's always been common for rabbis to go against it, much like my dude, Nick Booney. Yeah, Nicodemus there. And then he says, your spiritual journey doesn't have to be restricted to the Bible. If you aren't up to cracking it open, try the Dharma, the poetry of Rumi, and so many other options that lead to great paths. And then he says, comments drive the algorithm for reach. So I appreciate it, Bray, doing the heavy lifting there on that one. Zach, did you want to introduce yourself to anybody at all? Anything we should know about you?
Nothing to introduce. I mean, I do a podcast and a ministry almost about every day of the week, pretty much recording. So I will include this with what you were talking about. This comes from my lovely catechism from my church authorities. I'm an anarchist that is also, but that is entrapped by my Catholic Church. So, but this is from the Church People of God 781, paragraph 781 of the Catechism. It says, at all times and in every race, everyone who fears God and does what is right has been acceptable to him. He has, however, willed to make men holy and save them, not as individuals without any bond or link between them, but rather to make them into a people who might acknowledge him and serve him in holiness. He therefore chose the Israelite race to be his own people and establish a covenant with it. He gradually instructed this people. Hold on. Yeah. All these things, however, happened as a preparation for and figure of the new and perfect covenant, which was to be ratified in Christ. The new covenant, in his blood, he called together a race made of Jews and Gentiles, which would be one, not according to the flesh, but in the spirit.
Yeah.
So,
good summary of what we read. Yeah.
It sums up Paul specifically with Galatians, but
I like what it said right at the beginning there, because it's like, man, if all good gifts come from God and we recognize people that we wouldn't recognize as Christians as doing good things, well, we either have to do two things. We either have to say Satan is capable of doing good, or man is capable of doing good, devoid of God, or we have to say that God is a part of a lot of things, whether we are baptized in his name or not, or whether we get all the technicalities right or not. This is why we measure that's why Christ told us to measure by the fruit of the Spirit, right? Like if you've got that love and that peace and that joy, man, like, yeah, maybe your technicalities are a little weird. Maybe you call God by a different name. Maybe you're a big Jehovah guy. I'm a big Elohim guy, something like that. But it's the same guy, right? Abba Father. It's whatever the name you use is. That's the guy, right?
And that's actually the rabbit hole I was about to take us down when Zach was jumping on.
Hit me with the rabbit hole. That's right. I told you to wait, and then you had to wait forever. We're never going to get to what you wanted. Okay, go ahead.
It's all right. No, we talked about like what are we going to do after we finish the Bible reading, like the Bible in a year thing, and I was thinking. We talked about doing the Apocrypha as a potential avenue of like what to do next. And I was thinking maybe what about if we instead did other religious texts like Jude, like what is the Jewish text besides the Torah? Is there presumably there's the Talmud?
Yeah.
There is the Talmud.
Yeah, I mean maybe that would be an interesting avenue, and I don't even know what the religious book of the Islam is.
Quran.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I knew it. And it's like
it's okay.
Yeah,
They actually take away my degree if I don't know those two. After that is like after that things get a little like the works of the Buddha is when things get really dicey. If you want to like what it
That's
or
that's like a
Hinduism?
7-syllable word, right? Like the Valshad. I can't remember off the top of
you
my
might
head.
even be above me on that one.
I
I've read
remember
the
it's a very
whole
long word.
I've read the whole Mahabharata, which is like 3 Bibles, and it is not the only Hindi religious text. So it like it would be a heck of a journey. I would not be at all against taking it, especially I think if we could bring on people of those faiths. I think
Yeah.
that would get some value there. I had an interview with somebody who's Hindu for a while ago, back when I was doing my back when I was doing politics and I was doing my libertarian stuff, and I was like, let's bring in some of these other folks here. Brian, an atheist, says I'm a big flying spaghetti monster guy. Brian is one of my best friends. Brian, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen, and everybody's actually we got some good viewer numbers here. I really appreciate everybody taking the time to watch us here. Brian correctly got the Quran. He spelled it in a way that might get you martyred depending on the country you're at, but I'll take it well enough here. Oh, you're not an atheist. Oh, he's just an anti-dogma guy. Oh, okay. I always assumed you were an atheist, probably because you're an anti-dogma guy. I
just want to know what Zach is drinking. I'm sorry. I'm a Tylenol American, so like, okay.
Don't say that.
Tylenol American.
We're all Tylenol Americans.
This is a Tylenol American safe space.
Oh my god.
Very easily distracted.
Yeah. Ray says that the Bible in a year pace, it will take us about 15 years to get through one of the Talmuds. This is getting zucked for Tylenol in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I already by saying the word Tylenol, I think we're in some trouble here.
Sorry.
It's all good. All right, Aaron, you had one from Galatians chapter 4 that you made some notes that I didn't make on it here. So let me head down to what was it? Is this Abraham's 2 children?
Yeah. So
okay, read what you want to read of it and we can talk about it.
Yeah, so I guess the primary part of what I want to read is starting from verse 24.
Okay.
So basically, Paul analogizes the people who are bound to the law and the people who are bound to Christ as these 2 different women that Abraham was married to, or at least had children with, I should say. And the analogy, as soon as he starts making it, like I'm immediately thinking, wow, this is a pretty bad analogy.
I don't care for it. It's clear that there's a reason Paul wasn't really successful in predominantly Muslim nations, but continue.
Yeah, but okay, so basically he says that these 2 women serve as an illustration of God's 2 covenants. The first woman, Hagar, represents Mount Sinai, where the people first received the law that enslaved them. And now Jerusalem is like Mount Sinai in Arabia because she and her children live in slavery to the law. But the other woman, Sarah, represents the heavenly Jerusalem. She is the free woman, and she is our mother. And then further down on verse 30, so what do the scriptures say about that? Get rid of the slave and her son, for the son of the slave woman will not share in the inheritance of the free woman's son. So, dear brothers and sisters, we are not children of the slave woman. We are children of the free woman. And I despise this because I don't necessarily despise the point he's making, but the analogy he uses to make it, getting rid of people because they're not part of the... I just don't... I hate the analogy of analogizing it to real people.
You want me to try?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can I try? I think what Paul's trying to say here, using this allegory between Hagar and Sarah, children of Israel, and then children of Hagar, the Ishmaelites, who Arabs. I think what he's trying to distinguish here is the element that the forebears of Israel, the traditional descendants, is to be expanded upon all of us through the church as Israel, the new Israel. So that would include the children of the slave, or of Hagar, the Ishmaelites, with the Isaacites or the
Sure.
Israelites.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and I think that's how he's trying. He's using terms to fit the narrative of the ancient day, obviously, because that's just how we always try to interpret things. We try to talk to our audience, I guess. So, but I think
Right.
that's how he's trying to close it in.
Yeah, no, I get the analogy. There's nothing wrong with the
It's
the the vibe of what he's saying. It's the analogy
mhm,
itself, like comparing it to getting rid of people. I wrote down the abortion debate in this thing because I thought immediately the thing that I thought of was like
Mm,
um, Christians and their desire to their complication with, do you keep a child of rape or something like that. And some Christians are so hardline anti-abortion that like even rape and
mhm,
incest are not acceptable targets to, free yourself of.
yeah.
And that's kind of the thing I was thinking of when I was reading this. And I wish I had something like super poignant to tie them together, but I just really like the language of like get rid of the slave and their son. Just
Mhm.
really negatively resonated with me. I don't know.
Yeah, Bray says this passage ignores actual history. After Isaac and Ishmael bury Abraham, they formed the confederation we know as Hyksos. Also, Hagar remarried Abraham after Sarah's death and was even given an elevated name because God had blessed her more. And this is something that we need extra biblical sources to find out
Sometimes,
about.
yeah.
But yeah, like this helps. Aaron, I don't. If your only issue is you don't like the phrasing, I'm just
Yeah.
with you. That's all I can say. Paul is the spirit is perfect, the flesh is weak. Paul is not always the greatest orator or writer. And
And
I just have a negative.
and he would agree.
yeah, true. So, like, I think the issue when he's saying is get rid of her is to separate, because we have to remember this is the same Paul that says if you're gonna not eat with somebody, make it a fellow
Mhm.
believer, right? Like you eat with non-believers, right? Like you dine with them, you hang out with them, you take up their customs and practices. If you're cutting anybody off, it's a fellow believer, right? So we know that Paul doesn't mean it to sound as bad as it does, right?
Right.
Because we're not
Mhm.
casting out these types of people. What he's trying to say here, and as I pull this, I'm going to pull it back up because it's important. Oh, if I can click the button here, there we go. So the political part of this is important. There's a reason he's not just relating it to the bloodline, and we're talking about Arabia and Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, you need to remember the Jews, no slavery terms. And if I believe it says in the Talmud, like if you've managed to execute like one person in between each jubilee, that you like your society is like really screwed up, right? So there is a capital punishment, but you've got to like, I mean, you already mentioned rape, right? You've got to like rape somebody, you've got to murder somebody, they weren't big on adultery, I guess, right? You got to be cheating, something pretty bad. Murder obviously is another one as well, but generally this didn't happen very often, and there's no prison either, right? So when he's looking at Jerusalem, he's looking at a place that has largely been liberated from what we know as rigid political systems. This is contrasted to Arabia during the time period, which is very regimented, right? Which is like, and so the political element matters to this as well. It's like, do you want to be more like a, hey, what's the kind of vibe, right? Like when you go before the Sanhedrin having stolen something, the Mosaic Law lists like 12 different punishments for theft because like it kind of depends on the circumstance a lot, right? Like if you steal somebody's sheep just because like you're a greedy a-hole, then they're like, well, kill him then, right? Like he's a jerk, right? But if it's like I steal somebody's lamb because I had nothing to eat and that guy shortchanged my wages, then all of a sudden they're like, actually, you're free to steal the lamb, and that guy's actually coming before the Sanhedrin now, right? So there's a lot of Holy Spirit involved with the way Jerusalem is supposed to be ruled with the Sanhedrin and the way they say, let's kind of view case by case, right? Versus Arabia, which is, this is the law, eye for an eye, this is the rule. I'm not making exceptions to that rule no matter what. And so when we choose these two ways of life, we're supposed to choose one that has a lot of wiggle room as opposed to one that doesn't. As you say, it is worded badly, and that part I just can't really fix for you.
Yeah.
Nurse, you haven't thrown in any thoughts about that. Anything you want to say before we move on to this one?
I noted that, like the way you were talking about it, the way they say you're supposed to do it, as far as, dine with the people that are not of the it seems very backwards societally to way things are done today in the church. Like I can't help but notice that.
you and everybody that's made their way to this group.
Yeah. That is a common Bible reading issue. Yeah.
Like I'm hearing what you guys are saying versus what I grew up Southern Baptist, and like I'm like I'm hearing a lot of I'm feeling a lot of cognitive dissonance. Sorry, my words. I have difficulty sometimes. And listening to what you guys are saying and what I'm used to hearing, and I'm like, I'm so confused.
The difference is that we occasionally open the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's appreciated, but it's stirring up some stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a hypocrisy issue among the evangelical right currently. There's hypocrisy issues among everybody. Right? We are all beings and contradictory by
It's not new though. It's been going on since I was a child. Like I used to have nightmares after church.
Oh.
I grew up in the Billy Graham era. So
yeah. Yeah. I never went to
come to these a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm glad you're here. Religious trauma is a really tough thing to open up because it's not. This is something that when we talk about it, it can go real bad. We have 2 people here who regularly talk about being sexually assaulted and raped, right? I wouldn't call them out by name if they didn't publicize it, but Ben and Bray were both sexually assaulted. But even if it doesn't get to like that, it's taking away your autonomy, your choice at every turn. It's taking away all these explorations that you were supposed to have. It's carved away at you, and it's damaged your soul in a way that a lot of times you just feel can't be fixed, right? Because it's those formative years where they get you. You grew up with it, as you said, Nurse, right? And so you don't get a do-over during those formative years, right? When our brains are supposed to be like most pliable. Right. And so we have this forever, in some cases, forever engravings of what has been done to us. And this is something that we as a religious body need to understand if we're ever going to bring these people back in. I was doing some work, doing some articles about Charlie Kirk, right? Just recently because of obvious reasons, right? And I was looking at what has happened to the demographics of the church within the last 13 years of his activism. Aaron, this crosses over into something that you and I looked at together with Russell Moore, that video. But what was notable is we have fewer Christians today. We have a huge turnover radius, right? Like we lost a ton of Christians and put in a bunch of new ones. Right, that this was, and even though this is only 13 years, Nurse, this is older than 13 years. It's just accelerated, right? But we have essentially, and during those exit interviews with people who have left, what were the 2 most common things that they said? They had a high love of Jesus and a high love for the Bible. The 2 people the groups who left the church had high views of those things, and they left Christianity because of their high view of the Bible and their high view of Christ were the 2 problems. And they were replaced by people who, Charlie Kirk wrote a book, I believe it's called the MAGA Doctrine, right? Like this is a new doctrine that they have now, is a political one. There is as somebody who's been in ministry these last 15 years, like 15 years ago, I'd say love thy neighbor as thyself, no backlash, right? Like just tepid. And we were still right wing 15 years ago. Like, let's be honest here, right? Like, I'm not going to say we were like tie-dye hippies or anything. But now You quote that, and there's just pushback every time, right? Like it's a natural pushback. It's like if you believe in loving your neighbor as yourself, oh, that comes from Leviticus. You have to also believe in stoning the gays, right? Like, or you have to also believe in selling your child into slavery or whatever. And it's like, whoa, this used to be normal, right? Like and then when I point out that Jesus said it in the New Testament, it's like, oh, I didn't know that. And this was not like we're getting a generation that thinks that's only an Old Testament thing, right? And that it's been phased out. And so when you point out that like Jesus said it as well as a bunch of others, like we've just undergone this transformation. It's been very intentional. Like I could recommend a lot of literature. This is Old Politics. Jesus and John Wayne is a great book if you want to know like what happened. And that actually does go before all of our times here, you know, of politicians being like, we need to make Christians behave this way. What do we do? And so what we're happening, regardless of what the politics are, I don't even want to get into Democrat, Republican, whatever it may be. But when you're raised in a political system instead of a spiritual system, it's that rigidity, right? It's that this is who you need to be. And you've just cut off for you're here, nurse, and you're saying, I don't know what I even could have been, right? Like the person I could have been was destroyed during my formative years. I was cut off from all of these other paths outside of this one. And so even as you branch out now, even if you realize it, man, it's too late in a lot of cases, right? Like, how do we go back and get all of that back? It's 20 years worth of work to open up all these new neural roots that used to be open from birth, right? Like, and it's not
40
fair.
years for me. Like, I think it was when I was diagnosed as, you know, ADHD and autistic, that realizing the things that I was considered bad for in church and, you know, growing up or whatnot, it was my literal, like how my brain is built. Like that's just, there wasn't anything I could do about it. And I was disciplined and spanked and prayed for and all of this other stuff. And it's just like, that realization was just like, I don't know how to explain the grief that I felt. And like, could I have been somebody different than I am? Could I have been successful? Could I have been, I don't know, anybody other than the broken person that I am now?
Yeah, well, I'm just, I extend my utmost grief. I'm only repeating this to try and say that I understand, I guess. Like, people don't listen till they feel heard, right? So I'm just saying, I am lucky in the sense that I did grow up in like a moderately, you know, slightly right of center Christian household. I certainly, you know, I wasn't having sex. I saved sex for marriage, and, you know, I didn't view pornography, everything like that. But I certainly was not traumatized. And the amount of shame and trauma that people get, I mean, that's just not God's way, right? What's the prodigal son? You sell half your estate, you give it to your kid, you tell them have fun, right? Like, be like, hey, get out there and go mess up. And you know what God says? Hey, I'll be the vengeance. If there's vengeance needed, I got it, right? You're called to treat everybody well. What brings the prodigal son back home? This guy treats everybody so well. Look how well he treats his servants. Maybe I'll try going back home again. Instead, we as Christians try to be the punishment, right? We want to be the pigsty that the prodigal son finds himself in. Why would the prodigal son go back home if his father is sitting there as he's eating out a pigsty and laughing at him, right? Like that's asinine, right? Like we're called to be like that father, to be like, I love you. Of course, it's a mistake. We can give our kids all the warnings. I'm not saying anything like that, but you need to allow them, enable them even to have their own journey and go where they need to go. And God says, I'll take care of it. Your only job is to love them. Let me see if I can find that verse about somebody else talk. I need to find a verse.
Be the parent that your kid can call you at 2 a.m. because they've been drinking and they need to get a ride home.
So I've done something right as a parent then, because my kid doesn't have anything to do with me, but I still love him. And I would be there the second he called. Because I guess I know what that feels like, you know, when my mom and I had it difficult. And I just wanted space. And so that's nice to hear. That's a nice affirmation. Because I know I was not the best mom. I know I had a lot of cycles to break, and parenting is hard. They don't come with
Yeah, no kidding.
they don't come with any kind of instructions. They're just like, hey, here's this thing, feed it, clothe it, wipe its butt.
Bray says at the time Arabia was mostly pagan too, so this is one of Paul's biggest flubs where his inner zealot came through. Oh, okay, so he's double denouncing. Bad example, Paul. Come on. One example of non-sexual trauma. I'm naturally left-handed. In the same school I was assaulted at believed being left-handed meant that you're gay. So they literally beat me till I learned to be right-handed. This is ridiculous. I have heard this. It sounds like comedy stuff, but like enough people have gone through it that
yeah.
And Bray's not old. Like this isn't like 300. This sounds like to me, I think like Salem witch trials or something, right? Like I don't know. And even those aren't as old as they should be. I did find the verse that I wanted to go over here before we move on. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. That's our job. God, are there times that evil people need to be met with violence? Yes, but let God do it. We don't need to be doing any of that. Zach, you've been relatively quiet. Anything you wanted to say before we moved on here?
All I got to say is there's always going to be division. One verse that I will always go back to is, I do not come in peace, I come with a sword. Now, that doesn't mean literally a sword. That means that there will always be division, especially if you accept Christ. I mean, we're human beings. There's always going to be conflict. So there's going to be a conflict in family. There's going to be a conflict in school. There's going to be conflict at work. We just got to learn to live with it and hope and pray and grow and work with people, and sometimes isolate ourselves from certain people just because we can't really work with them. So surrender ourselves.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a cradle Catholic. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I went to Catholic school till 5th grade. I was bullied. I didn't have the best relationships with kids, teachers, or the priests at the time, who really didn't do anything for our parish that was very positive. And that kind of led me astray. And then I got into public school. And then, of course, public school is just a shit show. Pardon my French. So, and then that just gets you into bad culture. So it took me years. I dabbled in being a agnostic, lost little drug addict, to somebody who was just finding his way spiritually to a certain extent as a deist, but still lost in his own right. And then now I found myself back in the Catholic Church. It comes full circle sometimes. It really does. So,
yeah, since we're talking about stories, I mean, my story is pretty similar to Hodie's in that I grew up in the church until I was late teenager, and did not have any church trauma at all. Like, I mean, I felt estranged from the church because I could tell I was a conservative Republican at the time, but even considering that, I still felt like it didn't really, like, the amount of conservatism that's directly within the church really was off-putting to me, even considering it like matched my politics. And so I ended up like leaving the church and not coming back for 15 years until I found a church family that wasn't political, or at the very, like I don't believe that church should be a place for politics, but
agreed.
yeah. So yeah, that was kind of my story. I have trauma in my childhood, but it's not religious in origin. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad all of you were here with us through whatever journey it took you to get here. Just happy to have you alive and here. All the future events in this vision are like a sealed book to them. When you give it to those who can read, they will say, "We can't read because it is sealed." When you give it to those who cannot read, they will say, "We don't know how to read." And so the Lord says, "These people say they are mine. They honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. And their worship me is nothing but man-made rules learned by rote." It's kind of amazing that this passage coincided with what we were reading with Galatians this week.
It's kind of amazing, as though the
Mhm.
Bible in 1 year, people didn't deliberately set that up.
Right. That's just the way it works time-wise. But like Isaiah so syncs up with this, right? That like you're learning rules by man-made rules by like written note, and you're not supposed to love God like that. And I just think it's funny that I've been astonished, I'm sure you have probably too, Aaron, by how many times that's kind of iterated in the Old Testament. Right? Like I thought like there was going to be a more clean break, but it's really an evolution, you know. Any thoughts on that one? I know we kind of already talked about the essence of it. So, Aaron, let's go to a fun one that you had.
Yeah, I didn't have anything necessarily to say about it. I just love the quote.
Let's see here. This is Galatians 5:12.
5:12, yeah.
Okay, let me go pull this guy up here and make sure I am sharing the right tab. There we go. Is it up on the screen? It is up on the screen.
So the context for this one, I'll go ahead and say, Paul has been railing for a chapter and a half at this point about how much circumcision as an issue is causing division in the church, because the people who arguing on behalf of circumcision are trying to gatekeep people who don't care about it and are not participating. And the quote that he says that just got, like, I laughed out loud when I read it. I just wish that those troublemakers who want to mutilate you by circumcision would mutilate themselves, which is pretty direct.
I'm jealous, man.
This topic.
that line's it. That translation's funnier than mine.
It goes pretty hard.
I wish those who unsettle you would mutilate themselves, but I mean, he's more direct on that one.
Yeah, I don't have anything poignant to say about it. I just really like it. Just goes hard.
Yeah. just you want to cut my balls off, cut your own balls off. I
would like a hysterectomy. Like if we could make that verse work to get me one of those, then hey. If you guys are so good with female genital mutilation, then how about helping somebody else out with a hysterectomy? Why not? Okay, let me see here. I have one that I really liked. I want to make sure I find it again. So Isaiah is going through a conversation with the Jews because they have decided they've made a defensive treaty with Egypt, because they came to a crossroads, and the Jews were like, okay, we've fought everybody, we've angered everybody, nobody likes us anymore. And so what we need to do is we need to either make it up to them or start developing defensive treaties. And so they opt, fortunately, to go for the defensive treaties, and they set one up with Egypt. And I am really struggling to find this passage. I thought I had it, but apparently I don't. Okay, I found it. And here we go. So what's the issue here? This is what the sovereign Lord, the Holy One of Israel, says. Only in returning to me and resting in me will you be saved. In quietness and confidence is your strength. But you would have none of it. You said, no, we will get our help from Egypt. They will give us swift horses for riding into battle,
But the only swiftness you're going to see is the swiftness of your enemies chasing you. One of them will chase 1,000 of you. 5 of them will make all of you flee. So what is going on with that kind of saying? Because we tend to think, oh, well, wouldn't one person tend to fight one person and it's like an even match? You know, if why would we run away from one of them if there's 1,000? Well, they're experiencing some technological gaps as well. And this is something that we have still today, which is the problem when we rely on pure military might. Or one of the big issues, I support people's right to self-defense, but when we develop a culture around that weaponry, when we're unwilling to break our swords into plowshares, this was the issue, right? You could have been like, hey, we've got extra supplies. All you people who we committed atrocities against, have some food. Right. This is actually what made Solomon's reign so peaceful. We're told that he took all these other nations that they were at war with and instead opened supply routes with them and trading routes. And so we could have beaten our swords into plowshares. And that, I mean, historically, you're much less likely to get attacked. Even if you've got a big army, that only heightens your chance for attack. The thing that decreases your chance for attack is if you don't start surrounding people with enemies and weapons and stuff like that. And so the issue we have here is, think of the nuclear bomb. One of us, like a million of us, can be afraid. It only takes one person to click that button and millions of us are dead. We can't get into a society where we want to win by violence. We want to get on top by killing everybody else. This is what the Jews tried to do, and it's coming back to bite them. And Isaiah's warning them, you may think, oh, we've got the biggest army ever, it's going to work out for us. Well, there's a problem of technology. Their chariots are, the people who end up attacking them, their chariots are better. They have artillery at this point, not obviously, it's not the type of artillery that we know of today, but that they are more advanced. And so they are going to win. Why? Because they hate you. And so instead of addressing the hate, you've just decided to try to beef up defenses. That will always inevitably end up losing. You will lose as soon as the other person out technologies you. And so I like Isaiah's recommendation here, because where is your strength supposed to come from? Quietness and confidence was supposed to be your strength. We're supposed to be quiet and confident. That's what Israel was supposed to do. Be sure of itself and keep their heads down and be humble. And instead, they engaged in a military expedition, and it's going to be the doom of them. And that is something that we still find out today. Book I probably recommended 100 times, but I'll say it again. Fall of Civilizations. It's both a podcast and a book. I've read the book. I haven't read I haven't listened to all of the podcasts. This is a almost 100% common theme among Fall of Civilizations, why they fall. They did a lot of other people wrong, even if it's hundreds of years or even 1,000 years in the past. And eventually those wrongdoings come back to bite them. Any thoughts about this from anybody?
This actually came up in therapy recently, which with my therapist. He's I guess he's religious, I don't know. But we were talking about, I had a falling out with a friend, and we were discussing it, and I was very reactionary in my response to my friend, and it was along the lines of, he was advising me to kind of sit with myself more instead of being more explosive and reactionary when these things happen. And it's interesting that this verse comes up now, because it's along the same vein, and I guess God wanted me to
God wanted you to hear it
repeatedly. Yep. Okay.
God works. God works mysterious.
Mind your temper. Got it.
I mean, and this is on top of being politically true. It's personally true as well, right?
Yeah.
When are we, if we are the big bully, well, eventually everybody's going to gather around and gang up on us, right? That's not a sustainable thing. But if we are the quiet kid and we're just, hey, head to the grinder, help people out, love people, who's going to beat up that kid, right? If you love your enemies, even your enemies don't want to beat you up,
Yeah.
Bray says, as strange as it sounds, something good came out of all the politics and division. I survived, and I've been able to help other people survive. Ben's probably helped save lives too. Ben Williams is oftentimes here on the show. He had a Minecraft date with his daughter tonight, which we respect.
Aw.
But yeah,
I love that.
yeah. But yeah, he's because we can relate to the worst of the church can throw us. Sometimes we go through hell to be someone else's land. A
Yeah.
Persian general was looking for Sparta, but when they arrived to the location on their maps, they found a city with no walls and surrounded by farms. They decided it couldn't be Sparta because they expected fortification. However, Spartan doctrine was that the only city the wall needed was a wall of warriors when under attack. I like that. That is very cool. Thank you, Bray. All right. Anybody else any thoughts before I move on again? There is one more part to this in Isaiah. I won't pull it up because it's just brief, but the latter part of this says, in that day, he will be your sure foundation, providing a rich store of salvation, wisdom, and knowledge. So remember, those are the things you'd invest in. Wisdom, knowledge, that's the stuff. The fear of the Lord will be your treasure. But now your brave warriors weep in public. Your ambassadors of peace cry in bitter disappointment. Your roads are deserted. No one travels them anymore. The Assyrians have broken their peace treaty and care nothing for the promises they made before witnesses. They have no respect for anyone. The land of Israel wilts in mourning. Lebanon withers with shame. Again, if the only thing keeping you safe is a piece of paper, as soon as somebody decides to crumple it up and throw it in the trash, you're hosed, right? Like a peace treaty, just because it's like, let's have a momentary cessation in violence, it's still going to result in violence, right? This is not a good way to keep the peace. You need an ongoing relationship with people to keep the peace. Let's see here. Something from Proverbs this week. Get the truth and never sell it. Also get wisdom, discipline, and good judgment. There you go. I like this idea because it says to never sell the truth. How often do we see people sell out the truth? Right?
Oh,
like
too many times.
We all, I mean, we're all four of us in the liberty movement, right? We have all witnessed it. We have all seen somebody that they know the truth, and they decide to abandon it. And that's
why I'm an agorist. I'd rather
Same.
be anti-political.
Yeah.
And it's being distracting.
Cody doesn't look at the Discord while we're in the middle of the call.
Oh no.
You were talking about ripping up paper.
Multiple monitors.
That brings to what yesterday's gospel reading was for my church, our daily readings that are set up, and I bring up Luke 8 verse 16, which is the parable about the lamp. Since you brought up truth, right? No one after lighting a lamp covers it with a vessel or puts it under a bed, but puts it on a stand that those who enter may see the light. For nothing is hidden that shall not be made manifest, nor anything secret that shall not be known and come to light. Take heed that then how you hear, for to him who has will more be given, and for him who has not, even what he thinks that he has will be taken away.
Real banger. I like this, the way it's phrased. Carefully consider how you listen. Right? Like, we just think listening is passive, right? But it's very active.
It is active.
You know, we learn actively to tune stuff out, right? Like at the moment, I'm talking over Zach. I'm just ignoring him. Right?
I can't tell you how many conflicts I've had with my wife because one of us is not listening to the other, like actively listening. Just passively listening. Yeah.
Hey,
I like this one though.
So.
What'd you say, Nurse?
My partner and I both have ADHD, so we both have to really work at
really focus.
To one another. Yes.
Oh no.
Sorry.
I do like how this one has therefore consider carefully how you listen.
Yeah. Well, and the first one, I think we rely on sight all the time, so that we take the first one is almost for granted, right? Like when something's in the light and not in the dark, we're like, oh, I see it. I know what it looks like. I know what it is. We need to actively look at what we're looking at too, right? How many times do we talk about the witnesses after a bank robbery where they don't remember the colors of clothes or anything like that, right? Like, our brain and in many healthy ways sometimes converts a lot of things to the back. This isn't saying that not like we need to constantly be hyper vigilant and focused, right? Like our bodies actually no longer have the calories to support that type of thing. But what we need to do is say, this is something I care about. I'm going to give it active focus. I'm going to look at it, care about it, listen to it, right? And invest in it. Because if it's all passive, if you're just going through life with things being passive and whatever hits your desk hits you, I mean, speaking of that liberty movement, why did these people sell out that truth? Right? Well, a lot of times it's just, 8 of my friends were doing it and I really like them, right? They would never admit it, but let's be honest. These same people had the same friends that all decided together to go down this bad path. And we are social creatures, right? Like God made Adam, the one creation God made that he said it wasn't good was mankind. Why? It's not good because he's alone, right? Everything else gets made and God declares it good, but he makes man. And he's like, nope, that's not good. Man needs somebody. We need people. We are social people. We are designed that way. We can't exist alone. And so we need to actively put stock in our social circles. Choose our friends. How many of us just allow friends to just be what they are? Listen, take what God gives you to be sure, but invest in the friendships that matter, right? Like really focus on those as opposed to just letting whatever person bothers you the most be your friend just because you happen to have the most interactions with them. Choose people who are around you. This helps create a safety net for ourselves. You can have 800 people hate you, but if the 8 people you care about in life love you, then who cares? You're going to do the right thing, right? You're going to be strong even as the rest of the world crumbles, right? Because you're surrounded by people who insulate what you say. I know we talked about this last week too, Aaron, but I'm just going to repeat it again. That study where you can get basically 90% of people to say 3 + 4 = 8 if you surround them by people who say it's 8, right? And the 10% who say it's not 8 are not super principled. They're super disagreeable. Well, we need to thread that needle somehow. We don't want to be disagreeable, angry, toxic people, but we also don't want to be the type of people who say 3 + 4 = 8 because that's wrong. So what we need to do is take effort. We need to surround ourselves by people who say, no, 3 + 4 is 7. I will not abandon that value. You will not abandon that value. Let's be friends. Let's create a social circle. Let's create a community. And since we have that in common, we know that even if the rest of the world goes to heck, we are going to hold each other accountable to what is the truth and we won't sell it out. And so I like that you bring this up, Zach, because it's the tool that we do to make it so that we don't sell out the truth.
Always keep that light lit and the truth will let everybody come through. I look at that. That's how I look at it. I look as that light is truth. It's the truth. And if it gets shuttered or hidden or blown out, if it's the candle, I guess if you want to say it's a candle, but if it gets turned off, then how are people going to see it? How are people going to see you? How are you going to see them? So,
anybody else? Okay. Aaron, we got to the one you were referencing earlier. I forgot. I even made a note and forgot that it was here, but this is Paul's version of this verse here. For you've been called to live in freedom, my brothers and sisters, but don't use your freedom to satisfy your sinful nature. Instead, use your freedom to serve one another in love. For the whole law can be summed up in one command. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's it.
Yep.
Right?
That's it.
That's the whole law. All of it. If you're asked to summarize the whole law, love your neighbor as yourself. That's it. The Good Samaritan did not believe the same thing the Jews believed. It's an Abrahamic faith. It's a little bit complicated, but it's a different faith, right? And they were despised. Yet this person is going to heaven. Why? But they didn't believe the right God or something. They loved their neighbor as themselves. And in doing so, satisfied the entirety of the law and the prophets. I think that's so powerful, right? Like when we realize the importance of it that way. We focus so often on do I have to be baptized? When do I have to be baptized? All these little nitpicking things.
Minutia.
And right, minutia. minutia. And this goes back to
Mhm.
kind of the theme of what we talked about, justifying ourselves by law, checking some box, right? Even if we say it's by faith that we're saved, what do I need to do to have faith? What box do I check to say I have faith? We still try to reduce that to checking boxes, even if we get away from works, right? And it's all wrong. It's all wrong. This is the right way. Obviously a big one here, guys. Any thoughts on this one? Cool.
Clear cut. Clear cut.
Ray says the fact that God created a perfect person designed to be happy alone, but ended up creating another person because they were lonely, says a lot about our influence and the communion we have with God as humans. Yeah. Let's see here. Let's find something else here. There's a verse in Isaiah. I'll just read this because it's just very brief. I won't pull it up. Your own breath will turn to fire and consume you. Your people will be burned up completely like thorn bushes cut down and tossed in a fire. Isaiah actually goes on through several paragraphs to use this symbol of this fire. But it's important to know, how did the fire get started? Because of what we said. Remember what Jesus said. It's not what goes into you that causes you to sin. It comes out. Right? So when we say hurtful things, when we do hurtful things, when we criticize people, when Paul's being a jerk to the Arabs, right? Like, what is this? What does it do to people? This creates a fire, right? And this fire ends up spreading and consuming themselves. We set this fire for ourselves. I just like the way that he phrases that origin start. Your own breath will turn to fire and consume you. That you are the one that's going to burn up your own self by your own, I guess, call it karma if you want, right? You put out that flame into the world. You wanted to burn all these other things, and that flame's just going to come right back to burn you up as well.
Live by the sword sort of situation.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's why forgiveness is key.
I'm working on that.
Me too.
Yeah, I was going to say all of us are working on that.
I
That's part of the
think we're
human
off.
condition.
Yeah, sadly, that
Yeah.
dirty human condition.
Yeah.
Why, God?
As I think it's funny, we always get labeled as being, because we're love first Christians, they're always like, you're just taking the easy path because you don't want to follow all these laws and everything
It's
like
not
that.
so easy.
Forgiving somebody who assaulted you is like,
It's hard.
I don't even know what I could say, right? Like, what can I say that's harder than that? So they're like, oh, you're just okay with gay people because like it's so easy. I'm telling them to forgive everybody who damaged them, who permanently hurt them, right? Like, what makes you think this is easy? I don't know. That has always driven me crazy because it's like I've walked both paths before, having been like a conservative Christian as well as like a love first Christian, and like it is a lot harder doing this.
If there
right?
was
Like,
a way to cure the gay, believe me, it would have happened a long time ago for me, but there's not. I've tried everything.
Have you tried fire and brimstone?
I have.
I hear that works
have.
ugh, that's making me sick. Let's see here. Oh, there's one.
I hear just welcome them in.
Yeah.
Teach them of Jesus' works.
Open the door. Open the door. I like this one here.
It's always.
Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. And be careful not to fall into the same temptation yourself. Share each other's burdens, and in this way obey the law of Christ. If you think you're too important to help someone, you're only fooling yourself. You are not that important. Cruel.
I did like Paul's sassiness.
Yeah. You think you're important? Nobody's that important except for Paul, who is
right.
maybe a little important here. Oh, I cut it off a little too early. Apparently, be careful. Pay careful attention to your own work, for then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't need to compare yourself to anyone else. For each was responsible for our own conduct. So I love this for two reasons. Obviously, this first one, which is like be like cool to people who are suffering. When we're in an intervention, You put them in with other people who are struggling as well, right? Like well, I guess that's the rehab process. Sorry. When you rehabilitate, you put them in with other people who are going through that same journey, who are sharing that struggle. Paul says this, C.S. Lewis says this, that you don't witness to people unless you share that same struggle. If you've kicked porn and there's somebody else who's like, porn is dominating my life, you're the wrong person, right? Like, you can give them tips and everything, but you can't share that person's burden. It needs to be something that you're going through together, right? That this is a sin that I share, that we struggle with together, right? That we understand that we are still fallen and we need to. Paul says he's a terrible person. He always does what he doesn't want to do, right? Like, and he's like, I constantly do this, and I know what I should do. And so you want to surround yourself not with perfect people, but with people who believe in that end path, that are trying to get better, but who also share in that same struggle. Not people who have already conquered the struggle, or people who don't struggle with it at all, right? The second part of this I find that I love as well, because the other thing we get a lot is, what happens if we fail? That's going to happen, right? Like, we have tried to reach people as the Love First Christians. We have a remarkably high rate of reaching the people that we go out to try and reach. But we reached out to one individual, I won't mention his name, who was unfortunately like somebody we weren't able to reach, right? But we tried, right? We gathered a group. We loved on him. It wasn't a love bomb. It was genuine interest. We listened to him for like hours and hours and tried to develop a friendship there, and was like, cool, now that we understand who you are, we're going to try to get you on the right path. And it didn't work out, right? But where is my satisfaction coming from? Is it from success? Well, that's wrong, because only God grants success, right? Like, all I can revel in is that I tried, that I was a vessel, right? That I opened myself up, that I was willing to work on the vineyard. I can't make every grape look great, right? That's not somebody who picks the grapes in the vineyard. That's not our responsibility. We can be happy when they do, but that's God, right? Like, that's the rain. That's the dirt. That's weather, right? Like, all that stuff turning out. All we can do is just pick them when they're right.
There is actually, I don't remember where it is, but there was a verse on this today. This week's reading about farmers who are spending all of their time cultivating and not actually doing the harvest. I can't remember the context of it or anything like that, but it's funny that you bring up, growing great grapes. It's like, like we had a specific reading on that this week.
Shoot.
Listen, raisins are awesome too.
Great point.
Yes.
I disagree, but I will allow you to have your opinion.
If I find one in my cooking
salad.
Yeah. Oh, you are white, nurse. You are white.
No,
okay.
I don't like them in potato salad.
Oh, you don't like them in potato salad?
I would flip tables over that.
Okay.
Carrot salad is fine.
Did someone say flip tables?
Yeah.
There's a verse from Proverbs this week, says, the father of godly children has cause for joy. What a pleasure to have children who are wise. So give your father and mother joy. May she who gave birth to you be happy. I like this, because a lot of times Proverbs is just like, your parents are the best thing to ever happen to you. But this is like, I like what this is to be like, man, remember, like, as a parent, that you want to have kids that do this, that, or the other. So be the kid who does this, that, or the other, right? Like, how much you want to have a kid who's good and well-behaved, then be good and well-behaved for your parents, right? Like, make them happy. I like that kind of, it's pretty simple. Obviously, it's just be the good that you want to see in the world, but I like the way that it's phrased there in Proverbs. Very important verse from Isaiah. I didn't want to make sure I don't miss this one. Isaiah chapter 40. Somebody else talk about something. Or listen. Or watch me struggle.
I'm going to watch you.
Watch you struggle.
Yeah, watch you struggle.
You guys are mean. It is verse 29. Okay, let me scroll down here. Okay. This is a kind of a famous verse from Isaiah. It's one of the very few insights we get into heaven. I think it's appropriate that we get very few insights into heaven. in the Bible because we're not supposed to look up. We're supposed to look around, right? We're supposed to bring healing to people. Heaven follows as a natural consequence, right? But I do think that there's an importance to this verse, especially with what we're talking about today. And let me see if I can do it without tearing up. He gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. Even youths will become weak and tired, and young men will fall in exhaustion. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. And we think just in this life, it's very related to a lot of the struggles that we have, that we are, what are the things that we have? Weak, powerless. When even youths, we become tired. We become exhausted. Young men falling into exhaustion. Young people just exhausted with the way that life works. Mm-hmm. And those have lasting impacts on all the rest of our lives. And how many of our sins that we have exist because we're just exhausted and we're tired and we're beat down and we're put down. And we look at this world, like all four of us in the liberty movement, like we look at this world where we know, you just talked about it recently, Zach, like we know we have the capacity to be post-labor. Mm-hmm. We're there, right? Like we've achieved it. Why do you still have to work? Why are all of us now all of a sudden working? What has happened to our work hours? We've gone from 38 hours a week in the 60s to support one household to now over 70 hours to support one household.
Assuming you can find work.
Assuming you can find work. Assuming you can find a household, right? Like all of this stuff. We have more houses than people. But people still sleep in the streets. Mm-hmm. None of this makes sense. And we're all exhausted and tired and beat down. And we see that better world. And how many of our sins occur because we live in that fallen world? God acknowledges that, right? Mm-hmm. Satan rules this world. It's not him, right? This dominion was given to Satan. And so we're tired, we're exhausted, we're beat up. How much of heaven is just going to be, we beat ourselves up for being sinners all the time, right? Like the foot washing scene with Peter. I know usually that scene gets used more often to talk about how we need to serve others, right? Which isn't not a bad thing to take away from that passage. But the reason for that passage was you're all going to sin a little. You're all going to get a little dirty just going through life. Peter's like, give me a whole bath. And Jesus is like, no, not the whole. The whole of you is pretty good, right? It's just when you go through life, you just collect a little dirt because
on
life,
your feet, because you're walking.
Because you're walking. Life beats you down, right? Like be in the world, not of the world. But some of that world is just going to get on you, man. And how many of the sins do we think about that we struggle with, that like we beat ourselves up with? Those traumas, Nurse and Aaron, that you guys have. And Zach, your journey too, with the stuff that you went through. How many of the sins do you struggle with today? Do you say, man, I really wish I could kick this sin? Occurred because of stuff like that. You're just in this world that has just messed you up. And you make a mistake, and it's a genuine mistake, right? Like, it's hard. I remember when Patty was here, and Patty was like, man, I would like berate my husband sometimes when he'd get home. It's a legit mistake, right? Like, I lie, right? Like, I struggle with these. I don't know why truth doesn't come naturally to me. It should, right? Like, but why do I lie? Why do I lie? Almost all of us lie because we're going through this world, and we're struggling, and it's difficult. Why do we curse? Why are we slanderous? Why do we treat our enemies with contempt when we know we should treat them with love? It's almost always because we're beat down, right? And I think this idea that there is this heaven someday, God is putting us through this. This isn't the real life. The eternal life is real life. This is a simulation. How many times do you hear an atheist be like, couldn't God just have stuck us in a simulation? What do you think this is?
This is, right?
This is the simulation. The real thing's coming up later, right? Like this is to learn. This is the simulation. And yeah, that simulation, man, it hurts. It struggles. God is imprinting all this pain on our minds, and it's going to feel so much better when we are finally alleviated of those burdens. It's such a joyous thing, I think, when I read this passage, to just think that there will be a time when all that pain and beat down and struggle is just removed. And the sins from there are just going to, they take care of themselves, right? Like, I don't know. Anybody else, any thoughts about this one?
I mean, speaking of heaven, you kind of bring up Hebrews 9, actually, where discusses what heaven is and should be. Heaven's a city that's not so far from us right now.
Let's see, Hebrews
But
9.
it's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful though. So
Do you remember
behind
what?
the second, yeah.
Do you know what verse we got here? I'm trying to find it.
Go lower.
I had it,
At the very
and
bottom, I think I saw the word heaven.
Oh, so if I search the
3,
word heaven,
yeah.
oh, yeah.
How about 9:3? Behind the second curtain stood a tent, and called the Holy of Holies, having the golden altar of incense and the ark. No, wait, I lost it.
It's okay.
I saw something in there.
I think Aaron might have found it here.
Yeah.
Because at least the word heaven occurs 4 times in this passage. It was necessary then for the copies of the heavenly things to be purified with the sacrifices, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Christ did not enter a sanctuary made with human hands that was only a copy of the true one. He entered heaven itself, now to appear for us in God's presence. Nor did he enter heaven to offer himself again and again, the way the high priest enters the most holy place every year with blood that is not his own. Otherwise, Christ would have had to suffer many times since the creation of the world. But he's appeared once for all at the culmination of the ages to do away with sin by the sacrifice himself. I'm going to point this out again. We haven't got to Hebrews technically in our readings yet. But again, he appeared once for who? All of us. All of us at the culmination of the ages to do away with sin by the sacrifice of himself. Do away with sin. Yeah, this is a perfect passage for what we're talking about here. It's just cast out, man. Like, just as
I didn't want to jump ahead, but I figured I'd throw it in.
Oh no, it's good. You're allowed to jump ahead. Can you imagine we read like
Spoilers.
Genesis chapter 1, and I'm like, we can only talk about Genesis chapter 1, everybody.
Spoilers for a 4,000-year-old book.
Right. We get to Revelation. We're like,
that read any of it.
We get to Revelation. We're like, that was a heck of a conclusion. I didn't see that one coming. So just as people are destined to die once, and after that face judgment, so Christ was sacrificed once to take away the sins of many, and he will appear a second time, not to bear sin, but to bring salvation to all those who are waiting from him. Again, east and west is the way it's described, right? Like your sins can't touch. Right? Like they're not even touching you anymore. It's separated from you as far as the east is from the west. It's just different horizons here that you won't struggle with all this that you have anymore. I don't know. I think the thing is the Bible gives us very few views into heaven because we're supposed to focus on the process of getting there, right? Like the process of making this world wonderful and great for everybody else. But I'm glad we get a few. I'm glad we get just a couple. Oddly, the Sadducees did not believe in an eternal life. They did not believe in a life after death. And it's so weird for me to read Isaiah and just be like, what did you think he was talking about here? That we were going to like die and then like zombie style sprout wings like eagles here? Like in this, like, I don't know, man. Like it's weird to me that the Sadducees even existed as people, but they did. All right. Let's see here. Let's see if I have anything else that was big that I wanted to talk about. No, I think that's actually I think there's a verse from Isaiah, and may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep his love is. I equated this to like a video game. Hey, Nurse, you're a gamer too. You'll understand this. We've all played a game that is big in one direction and not in other directions, right? Like that it is a long game, takes like 80 hours to beat, but it's not a deep game. It's not a
never beaten a game, so
I guess there is no, I guess if you beat Stardew Valley, I guess that would be an interesting feat, right? You roll credits on it. You defeated the last.
Play other games. Thank you
weed.
very much.
do you play a beatable game, but you just haven't like beaten it yet? Oh,
I
okay.
have ADHD.
Okay.
I play all of the games.
Just 15, 20 minutes on each.
Just
No, I have a Steam backlog, and I totally do that.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while, I'll just get a spur of the moment desire to like, I'm gonna knock out 4 games on my backlog, and I've only played them for like 20 minutes each.
I probably should add Hody on my Steam so he can understand my
Oh.
gaming.
your gaming habits.
Yeah,
It's been
I
too
get
long.
obsessed and then I stop.
I've gone back to a ARPG kick, so I'm playing Titan Quest now, the original Titan Quest. Everybody else is a Diablo person, but Titan Quest was my jam when I was a kid, and it still is now.
I'm hung up on Once Human, so.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Once Human, Titan Quest, both good games.
Mhm.
One more here. There's a quote about it. And so we got to Ephesians this week. I think we're even finished with Ephesians. It only had 6 chapters. We may even be done with it for our readings. I did the reading. I just can't remember if we did all the chapters. But anyway, the church at Ephesus is different than all the other churches. We talked about how they're largely Gentiles, that they actually didn't have like a large Jewish community or even a minority Jewish community. They were essentially all Gentiles that accepted the word. The struggle with the Gentiles, I love with Ephesians, because Paul is putting everybody else in their place. He's bringing them down, right? Like these Jews that are like, we had the law first. We're so fantastic. And Ephesians is different because he's building them up. He's like, you guys need to humble yourselves. What are the Ephesians doing? The Ephesians, the correction that Paul needs to make with them is that they're giving to the church, but they're not receiving anything. They want to be good people and like good examples, but they're scared to ask for anything. And Paul's like, that's not how any of this works. You're actually robbing them of an opportunity to serve you. And you're also like, if you isolate yourselves over here, you're not becoming part of the body like we need you to.
Part of the world, yeah.
Part of the world. I think this is a fascinating concept because too often we think of ourselves, how do I become a self-made man? How do I become self-efficient? And listen, there's some great lessons there to be like, financially, to be like, hey, I'm in a place where I'm not in danger or depending on something crazy, right? But we need to build lives. When we plan out our lives, we should be dependent on things, on other people. In a very functional sense, we are, right? Like I'm talking into a video camera that is way beyond my comprehension. I would never be able to make it, right? So it like an economic level, obviously, I have to pay for it, right? Like I pay these other people and I say, thank you very much for these millions of people putting together all this work and knowledge to make this camera for me and put it right there, right? Like I really appreciate that. It's a good thing. But we should understand, we should treat our whole lives like that. Not only that, I think we drive ourselves mad trying to be givers sometimes. And we rob people of the ability to support us because what is it blessed, to give or to receive? It's blessed to give. So when we're not letting people give to us, we're robbing them of that opportunity, right? We're taking away their opportunity to be a hero. We're taking away their opportunity to help you out. And so when we build our lives, this is supposed to be a daily thing. I depend on somebody to do this part of the dinner and then they depend on me to clean or vice versa, right? Something like that. When we split up our chores, we need to have this kind of relationship. We might take pride. And this is one that's hit me personally because I try to take pride in being like, I'm bringing in all the money and handling all the chores and I'm doing all these wonderful things. And I don't like, it doesn't break me, right? Like I'm not like stressed out or anything, but I am taking away from my kids and my and my gal and everybody in my family, the opportunity to take part in this life that we built together, that they don't feel an attachment to this home because it was just, that was just his project. And it's supposed to be our project, right? When we're building this community with Christ, that it's supposed to be a community thing, that this is that. So we need to allow people the opportunity, as opposed to saying, oh, you don't have to do that. No, you don't have to do that. Being like, you know what, actually that would help. Maybe it just saves me a minute or two, but yes, I would appreciate that. And give them that opportunity to help out. And so to help us out too. Any thoughts on that before we move on to any current events?
Kind of throws out the anarchist community. Or does it expand it?
I was gonna say no.
Yeah.
If depending on how your perspective, it absolutely is part of the anarchist community. Mutual aid is
Voluntarism.
yeah. I mean, I spent my entire 20s kind of as an island, where I was taking care of everything, but I wasn't giving anything back, and I had a period of really, really bad financial stuff about 3 or 4 years ago. And I had to survive on GoFundMe for several months, begging my friends for, whatever they could give to just make it through, my needs, my family's needs and everything like. And then since then, I've been doing fairly well. I mean, I'm able to at least tread water, and I've been able to give back too. And it's so satisfying to be able to give out, beyond just receiving. I mean, it's also nice to give.
Yeah.
And I mean, and there's I guess additional emotional validation because I was also in need at one point. That makes it better, I guess.
Yeah, right. You understand what it's like when somebody gives you that $100 to help you pay that rent, right? So when you give that $100, you know what you're doing for that person, right? You've been there before. You have that appreciation, right? I think that's kind of like almost a summary of like Jesus and covering sin for us, right? Like, he knows what that's like. He took on all that sin for us. So he understands what it's like to issue that forgiveness. And when we forgive other people, right? Like, I mean, Christ is asked 3 times when he's alive, like how they get into heaven. And all 3 times he talks about not judging other people and forgiving them, right? Like, that's how you pay it forward, And so that, like, I guess I don't want to take away from the point that this is a material thing, because that's what's happening in Ephesus, right? It's very material. But I think that material is just reflecting the spiritual, that we need to be able to receive these spiritual blessings, these spiritual good things like forgiveness, right? None of us are going to be perfect. So we need to be able to receive forgiveness. And then we also have to be able to give it, like all those things. Sweet. Current events. I have one to talk about. I don't have much to say about it. Obviously, anybody listening, we actually have like a ton of viewers right now. So I want to say thank you to everybody who's listening. Current events always sounds political. And that the problem is that politics has grown to absorb everything, right? Like, I don't know how to have a non-political conversation anymore, because that's not because of me. That's because politics is encroached on everything that we do. So I just want people to keep in mind, because obviously with the numbers I'm seeing, a lot of you are new. I don't like being a spiritual organization that teaches politics. I purely want to focus on spiritual matters, morality, ethics, philosophy, stuff that cover, stuff within the theological realm, and have you take that over into politics as you will. But I don't want to provide like a loaded, I'm not trying to load you to do one thing or the other politically. We have Republicans, we have Democrats, we have anarchists, we have libertarians, we have people who are in this country who are political parties that I don't even understand, right? Like that is, so Love First Christians, we got a bit of everybody. And it's good that way, and I intend to keep it that way, and I don't want to persuade anybody one way or the other. So when we talk about current events and we talk about things, we do that because we are navigating a very real world. And so what I'm trying to do when we discuss current events is that we say, hey, this is something that's really happening in the world. How do we as spiritual beings navigate this? Now, sometimes it's going to come off like a political statement. For example, committing a genocide is a terrible thing to do. It is. And so when we
Mhm.
see somebody in the world committing a genocide, that's going to sound like a political prescription, but it's not, right? We are giving you a spiritual prescription, and whatever politics you make of that, then so be it, right? God calls us to love our enemies. He calls us to care for the least of us. Our salvation is directly tied to how we treat the least of us, right? So if we are bombing them to oblivion, I have a religious need to say that gets you not sent to heaven to be part of that scenario, right? I'm a universalist. I do think everybody's going to get there eventually, but I do think that there is something to be said for saying, like, hey, listen, this is how Jesus says you're saved. So I want to lead people away from that type of thing. Anyhow, that's a big intro. I probably won't say that every time. I'll just jump into current events, but with the number of people watching, I just want to make that's pretty clear right now. So to talk about something that I just saw this week, censorship, right? We as Christians are called to engage with a lot of different people who believe a lot of different things and find commonalities with them. When Paul goes to the temple of the unknown God, he doesn't just burn it down. He says, "Oh yes, I can use this," right? Like he uses that as an olive branch. And so he reaches out to these people. And with censorship, it's like the opposite of this process. When we have somebody putting pressure on somebody to shut up, that is a huge problem for us Christians, even if we don't like the thing that's being said. In this particular week, I am not a Jimmy Kimmel fan. I love his unnecessary censorship. I think that one's funny. And I was back in my young conservative days. I liked a little bit of him on the Man Show. I even but he has not been that person for a while, and I don't think he's funny. Even when I tuned in to watch him come back, I was like, yeah, this is okay, right? But I'm certainly not gonna interrupt my YouTube playlist for this guy. Right?
I'm judging you for the Man Show.
Yeah.
As a leftist,
you should judge me. It was a bad face. Go ahead, Aaron.
As a leftist, it was an absolutely insufferable week trying to navigate the fact that, like, I have to defend Jimmy Kimmel, despite the fact that I don't care about Jimmy Kimmel at all.
Right.
I wouldn't even say I'm a leftist, but I was defending him.
Like, couldn't the network just cancel him just normally, right?
Like normal, yeah.
Right.
Not be pressured by the FCC chair.
Please, right? But the problem is we had an FCC chair who blatantly took credit for it. Trump took credit for it. He said it's either this way or the hard way. And now apparently it's going to be the hard way. They took after the cancellation, which ended up just being very momentary. Congratulations, by the way, to everybody for pulling your subscriptions and telling Disney exactly what you thought of them for doing that. And so
I gave up my Grey's Anatomy for y'all, okay?
It was a suspension by Disney.
Right.
And then,
it was never cancellation, that's true.
And then, but since then, Nexstar and Sinclair have both said that they're not going to continue his show on their networks. So it's like he's still partially canceled. It's interesting that Disney is standing up to Trump, and the FCC chair, but that Nexstar and Sinclair both cowed. And it's part of a greater ongoing issue with like college campuses and things like that, with the Palestinian protests, of which colleges are preemptively giving up their power to bow down to Trump's demands, and which ones are fighting back. And the ones that fight back almost inevitably are going to win in the courts because they're on the side of justice. Like they're unambiguously on the side of the law. But the ones who just preemptively give up their power and just give up just because they want to go along to get along, and they'll just engage in appeasement. Very disappointing.
Yeah.
It's happening in Florida with DeSantis. The schools.
Oh man, the schools, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Big time. Like not even just with the LGBTQ, but like in Orange County, they're literally erasing African American history. And it's like it's I don't even know what the curriculum was. I read it and I felt physically ill, but they're taking things out of the history books in regards to what happened with slavery, things that happened in was it Rosewood? I think it
Yeah,
was.
Rosewood.
And it's horrific, and
Hmm.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
kids these days have never even heard of the Move City bombing. You know, like,
Yeah.
and it's been completely excised from history.
Yeah.
Black Wall Street.
Or
People treat it like a conspiracy theory. Like,
I mean,
it's
since
wild.
we've talked about a couple of times, we talked about labor in this conversation. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire.
Yeah.
Like that's something that, like, you ask the average kid, they're not going to have any idea what that is.
Bailey Sarian viewers know about it, though.
Zach, you've been very polite. Anything you want to say on this one?
Nothing on this one. I'm just listening. So I'm getting my news. All right. I try to stay away from the news, so I'm getting my news. No,
That's,
as far as like as far as the censorship, I mean, I it's outrageous that we're in a world like this. I mean, as far as like what Florida's doing or what Texas is doing with their, in the recent weeks, they had their little I don't know if it passed or if it's going to pass, but their anti-Semitism bill. I think California just recently passed in their General Assembly a brutal censorship bill in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. And then Jimmy Kimmel, it doesn't matter if you like him or not. I mean, people have the right to say their opinion. So, and you have the right to ignore them, in my opinion. So, yeah. That's dangerous with the education, though, because I mean, as much as there's, I mean, I'm a proponent for nuance and revision to expand on history, but when you start taking away history, that's not going to change anything. That's just basically replacing one hint of propaganda with the next.
Trump with the Smithsonian saying basically, like, we're not sufficiently glorifying America. And so we need to excise the elements that don't sufficiently glorify America's exceptionalism.
The hate groups are still alive and well here. I mean, that's a thing. Like, even this past summer, we had them on overpasses with their signs, and like, they're here.
Yeah.
You know, and they are terrorizing marginalized communities to this day. I live in an area that is still considered a sundown area.
Oh gosh.
And you know,
and in 2025.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been like 2 years at this point, but one of my local churches that I actually should be more attentive to, considering their politics, but they hosted a drag show at the church, and again, I live in Texas, and overt neo-Nazis protesting outside of the drag show. Like, not just like, we're conservative and we're concerned about the degradation of the church. Like, they were wearing Nazi memorabilia, and they were
that happened,
and they were just milling about with the conservatives. Like, there was no delineation between the two groups. They weren't hostile to each other. They were just, you know, milling around.
We actually had to go and stand guard outside of one of our local they had drag queen bingo night, and we had to go make sure that the people inside were protected, because there were actual Nazis outside. And they canceled the next one, obviously, for safety reasons, but
terrible. But yeah, I mean, that's how it goes down, right? Like, I mean, this is pressuring people to Brendan Carr, unbelievably, somebody was like, hey, by the way, this was in Project 2025.
Yeah.
And he did the Jack Nicholson gif where it was like just admitting. I mean, and Carr, I actually didn't note this, but actually wrote Project 2025. He worked on it. I did not know that. And Trump hired him anyhow, so that's great. So, like, I guess he's just not hiding it. So there's that.
You know who saw this coming?
everyone.
TikTok saw this coming.
Lit-
You know who
literally,
they tried to censor? TikTok.
TikTok, man.
well,
Mhm.
literally
For sale on
everyone
that.
saw it coming, including, I mean, the Republicans. The Trump was saying like, oh, I don't know what's in Project 25. I haven't read it. I don't know. And like, and then you get to his actual administration, and he's hired damn near everybody that worked on it. He's implemented damn near everything in it, and it's just like, really, you didn't know anything about it, really? And but it's already it's already gone at this point, so there's no point in even relitigating the fact that like it was a transparent lie. And we all knew it was a transparent
Mhm.
lie at the time, and now it's become even more obvious that it's a transparent lie. But nobody cares anymore because now we're on to the genocide in Gaza, or everything like that. Like, we've moved on, and we can't dwell on the last lie because we're already dealing with the next lie.
Mhm.
Flooding the zone, right?
Flooding the zone.
Yeah. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to talk about besides censorship?
I got to split, unfortunately. I got to go
Mm.
read a bedtime story to the kiddo. But
Good.
I will catch y'all later.
Aaron, thanks for coming by, man. I'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good night.
You two, anything current event wise you want to talk about?
Nothing really.
All
Nothing
right.
that's really of intrigue.
That's cool.
Everything's just
I think I've got it off my chest already.
mhm.
Yeah, stay safe out there, everybody. Hey, Nurse Zach, I know you guys are brand new. I appreciate you both swinging by this week. It was a better with you both in it. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for having this. So
Yeah.
Indeed.
Bible study next week, Wednesdays. To everybody who's listening right now, description of the video has a link to join the Love First Christians. You do not need to be a Christian to join. In fact, I would say probably half of our people are non-believers, and that's totally fine with us. We just want that connection. If you have any questions, obviously you're completely welcome to ask them. Imperfect people definitely welcome. Otherwise, I would be the first one given the boot. We'd just be happy to have you. We do a daily Bible reading, and we have, after we get through the Bible reading this year, we have a lot that we have on the horizon that we want to do. It's coming up. But yeah, again, I just appreciate everybody being here, spending 2 hours of your Wednesday evening with us. Nurse Zach, Bray, Aaron, Ben, Brian, everybody who showed up. I just really appreciate all the contributions. Have an enjoyable Wednesday, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.